Hello and welcome back everybody. It's Complicated Relationships Reddit Stories. Hope you guys are safe and healthy. Now let's see what the story is about today. What would you do if you were betrayed by the two people you loved and trusted the most in your life? Do you think you would be able to move on in your life with that thought in your mind? Let's find out all about it in today's story with all the updates.
I met my wife, we'll call her Sue, in college. We were both 18 at the time. We hit it off as soon as we went on our first date and were saying I love yous within weeks of us dating. She kind of pursued me, but I was glad that she did. We shared our deepest insecurities and secrets with each other. And when her dad passed away in her senior year of college, I was there for her through the whole ordeal. Her father had pancreatic cancer. And when he was hospitalized, I'd spend nights at the hospital with her so she wouldn't be alone. We got through it. And that point in time strengthened our bond. She told me she didn't know what she would have done if I hadn't been there for her. She called me her soulmate. I knew I was going to marry this girl, and sure enough, I popped the question about 2 years after we graduated. At that point in time, life couldn't get any better for me. I married the girl of my dreams, had a well-paying job immediately after graduating, and both of our families loved us.
OP's best friend, we'll call him Dave, and he had what he could only describe as an unbreakable brotherly bond, or so he thought.
We had known each other since 3rd grade, and he was the brother I never had. He was also married and moved away with his wife because she had landed a lucrative job at a big law firm. About a year ago, his wife died in a car crash, and this broke him. He moved back to our hometown after, but he was never the same. I tried to be there for him, but he wouldn't engage with anyone. No one understood the pain he was going through. So I asked my wife if she could talk to him, seeing as she had also lost a loved one, and that maybe Dave could relate better with someone who went through something similar. Yes, I now know that this was a huge mistake.
They'd pay him visits daily. She would spend hours on end at his place, even without OP there.
They were going on hikes together, watching movies, and not inviting me, grabbing lunch, all things couples do. Now, obviously, this was far more interaction than I had intended for them to have, and it did make me uncomfortable, but Dave was doing much better from it. It's important to say that Dave and Sue never liked each other before all this happened. This is because Sue always thought he was a D-bag. Before he married his wife, Dave was bouncing from relationship to relationship, and even after he got with his deceased wife, he constantly cheated on her. As a result, Sue had a particular dislike for him and always questioned how I could be friends with someone with such low morals. This disdain for Dave is also what made me oblivious to what was to come.
As OP mentioned, she and Dave became inseparable to the point where she would invite him to things OP had planned for them as a couple.
Moreover, she started portraying characteristics of what I now know to be classic cheater behavior. Always on her phone, becoming increasingly distant, little to no intimacy, and coming home very late. At this point, it was all too suspicious, and one day she was texting, and I asked who she was talking to. She said it was one of her girlfriends, and when I asked to see what they were saying, she became very irritated and called me possessive. When I talked to Dave about how uncomfortable their friendship was making me, he assured me nothing was up and even accused me of not trusting him and my own wife. I was getting gaslit. This continued until one day Sue went out again. She said she was going to her sister's for the weekend because she needed some space from me because I was driving her crazy with my accusations. I was still very suspicious and called her sister to confirm if she was indeed expecting Sue to visit. She confirmed that she was, but that Sue had not yet arrived. Mind you, she had left around 3 p.m., and her sister's place is about 4 hours away from where we live.
It was now 10 p.m., and something in the back of OP's head told him to go to Dave's house. So he did.
Sure enough, my wife's car is parked a couple of feet away from my friend's house. At this point, it was clear as day as to what was going on, and I hate to admit it, but I cried. After a few minutes, I decided to go in and see if this is really what was happening. I went in through the back door, which I knew would be open. I quietly made my way in, and I could hear my wife happy. I was shaking. When I made it to the door of his bedroom, I could see through the creak. My wife, over on his nightstand. I'll never get that image out of my head. I'm literally crying as I'm writing this down. I pushed the door wide open and they both froze, staring at me. It took every ounce of my being not to start a fight with Dave. I just walked away and got into my car. I could hear them scrambling and my wife started screaming at me to stop and that she can explain. I didn't want to look at her. I don't know what I would have done, so I just drove away. I cried the entire drive home and they both kept calling my phone. I went to one of my college friends and have been here for the past week or so.
OP says he can't eat, can't sleep, and he can't think of anything else.
I informed my work of what was going on and they were kind enough to give me time off. I've been getting phone calls from both Dave and Sue, as well as both of our families. I let my family know I was all right and would be back soon, but I haven't responded to anyone else ever since. This hurts so badly. I'm trying to be strong, but my resolve is wavering. How can someone you loved so selflessly do this? I don't know what to do. How do I deal with this? I edited this post and removed some of the bad thoughts I had. I read most of your comments, but couldn't respond. I wanted to thank each and every one of you who offered support to me through this difficult time. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. You have no idea how much your words helped me think in a more positive light since all of this happened. You all gave me hope that there are genuinely kind and caring people in the world. Also, I took your advice and I'm currently looking at getting a divorce lawyer to weigh out my options. My friend recommended one who he described as a shark, haha.
Now, here is the first update.
As many of you guys suggested, as well as family and friends, I contacted a lawyer and met up with her yesterday. I gave her all the details, and she seems to be very motivated to help me come out of this as financially whole as possible, given the circumstances. I still love my wife dearly, but I don't know if this is something I can ever get over. I received lots of messages from Dave too, but I don't want to read them. I often switch from sorrow to rage and don't know how to feel right now. Should I try to see if reconciliation is possible, or should I just end this marriage now and save myself more heartbreak? My family knows everything. Apparently, Sue confessed what she had done to everyone.
OP's been away from everyone for more than 2 weeks now, and he still doesn't know what to do.
The pain still feels fresh. Every time I close my eyes, I can see nothing else but Sue and Dave together, and the pain doesn't seem to be lessening. I know most of you are saying to just divorce, and I would say the same thing too, but things aren't that black and white when you are the one in this situation. Given all this new info, I'd appreciate any advice, particularly from people who've been here. Betrayed spouses and WWs, how did you manage to move past this? Is it even possible? Right now, I'm almost certainly going to move on with the divorce, but I just need reassurance I'm making the right decision. I've read all your comments and felt I needed to add this. I was told by her, as well as family and friends, that she has been living with her sister the past few weeks. In one of her emails, she explained that she has only spoken to Dave once since I found out and went full no contact with him. Her mother called me and apologized for her daughter's behavior via text. I didn't pick up her calls. She said Sue is in individual counseling at the moment.
In another one of her emails, she said she was never going to leave OP for Dave.
She has feelings for him, but she doesn't love him. Huh? Dave is supposedly leaving soon, but is apparently holding it off until he speaks to me face to face. There's a lot of other stuff I haven't addressed, and I'm probably leaving out some details, but some of my family and friends are saying I should just talk to her and move on from there. That's where I'm at now. Edit. My soon-to-be ex-wife sent me their entire text history. Every single one. At least, she says it is. The day she says was the last time, and she was telling him that they can't see each other anymore, and that it would be the last time they would ever speak. That's what she said. Who knows what's really going on?
End of part 1. We have part 2 coming up next, but before that, if you like what you heard so far, please hit that like button so this story will reach more and more beautiful people like you around the world. Now, before part 2, let's listen to a few comments by the beautiful community.
TN Wolf 666 says, I am doubtful of whether it actually ended. I would like to believe what she said, but I don't. However, I could be wrong. Good luck. OP's reply, I had trouble believing it as well, but everyone is telling me she has been at her sister's and hasn't been leaving the house since all this happened. Living Happa says, but didn't her sister cover for her in the first place? Wasn't your wife supposed to be at her sister's when she was ducking your friend? I wouldn't trust any of that nonsense. OP's reply, her sister didn't know about Dave. The night I found out, my soon-to-be ex-wife was supposed to be at her sister's, but she wasn't there. She let me know that her sister hadn't arrived and didn't know where she was. I don't think she would have told me that if she knew about them. Robbie C777 says, divorce her. She can't have her cake and eat it too. Now that she has had a taste of your best friend, she wants you back. You need to move on and have a fresh start.
Now, here is the second update.
When I looked back on the marriage, most of it was filled with little else but happy memories, which is why I was trying so hard to find a reason to stay. However, when I started thinking about her cheating, how she and Dave gaslit me and made me question my sanity, the only thing I felt was rage. The deeper I looked, the angrier I got. I will never forget how angry Sue would get when I questioned her on where she'd been when she came home late, or the disgusted look Dave gave me when I asked him, man to man, if there was anything going on between him and my wife. The cheating was bad enough, and even worse was that it was with my best friend.
OP says he'll never get over it. Fair enough, he was played like a fool he was, but it takes a special kind of person to lie so effortlessly and so well.
I remember one night when she came home late, about 2 days before I found out. She was telling me how much she loved me and how turned on she was when she was driving home thinking about me. Now, I am almost certain she had come home from Dave's because she wasn't wearing any underwear. She had relations with both of us back to back. The whole situation made me feel like a loser. How could I have let them walk all over me like that? I feel so emasculated. The more I reflected, the more I got the urge to head over to Dave's. But I couldn't. There is no justice for me, not with our justice system. They get to hurt me, mentally, but if I retaliate, I'm the one who gets put in jail for who knows how long. I spoke with my lawyer about this, and she urged me not to do anything stupid. Not only would I go to jail, but I would jeopardize my chances in the divorce proceedings. I was still receiving emails from Sue, and they were just making me angrier. She was still saying the same nonsense as before, and how miserable her life would be without me. She even had the nerve to send me Bible verses on forgiveness. If I mattered that much, why do it?
One day, while at work, OP received a letter from Sue.
I wanted to just throw it away, but decided to read it. In it, she talked about her individual counseling and how it helped her discover some underlying issues she was having with herself. The biggest of all being her low self-esteem. She explained that the discrepancy in our attractiveness made her very self-aware, and that deep down, she wanted to feel desired by someone other than me. She said that even though she knew I was attracted to her and that I made her feel beautiful, she sought that validation from someone else. She apologized again and said it wasn't an excuse, but that she was simply looking for a way to make sure it never happens again if I decide to give her another chance. I still didn't respond to anything she or her family sent me at this point.
Anyway, OP started the divorce proceedings, and the first order of business was splitting their finances.
We each have separate accounts, as well as a joint savings account, and unfortunately, I can't take what I'm entitled to from it without her. So, I just proceeded with filing the divorce papers. She was served a few weeks ago, and then the show started. The very day she was served, she showed up at my apartment with the divorce petition in her hands. I don't know how she found out where I was. We just stared at each other for what felt like forever, and all the pain from that night came back. All the emotions I felt returned. She looked like she had been crying, and she rushed towards me and tried to give me a hug. I gently pushed her away, and this somehow made her hysterical. She started shouting, asking why I was giving up on us so easily and if we could just talk it out. At this point, I figured I just wanted to get away from her. Looking at her gave me a wave of different emotions, so I wanted to get away before I did or said anything I would regret. I tried going back to my car, and she threw herself on the top of the hood. I asked her what she wanted, and she said she just wanted to talk things through, that we couldn't end our marriage in such a manner without at least clearing the air. I relented because she was clearly not taking no for an answer.
They got to OP's apartment and he just sat down and listened to what she had to say.
Again, she said she would do anything to save our marriage, that she doesn't love Dave, that she's sorry. She suggested a trial separation. In this separation, she said I could date whoever I wanted, but that I should hold off on the divorce and, at the very least, give her the chance to mend our friendship, and then our relationship as husband and wife. She suggested a lot of other crazy stuff, like a one-sided open marriage in my favor, tried showing me stories of other couples who have survived infidelity, and even suggested that we should just move to a different state or even a different country, just the two of us. That part kinda hurt me because we had spoken about moving and starting our family not too long before all this happened.
OP asked her, why? Why him? Why cheat on me with him and then come back after I caught you?
She started sobbing really hard when I asked these questions. She said she felt really guilty even during the acts, but that she didn't know how to stop. That she was so deep in the fog that she didn't think of the consequences and what she was going to lose. She said that the counseling made her realize that she probably would have cheated on me at some point, if not with Dave, then with someone else. I asked her if she loved Dave, and she promised me she didn't love him, that they haven't spoken since I left, and that she doesn't even know where he is now. That she loved only me and would do anything to make up for what she has done to us. I asked her if she had ever cheated on me before all of this, and she swore on her late father that this was the first and last time. I asked her who else knew about her and Dave. She hesitated and said only her sister, but that she only knew about it a few days before I found out, and that she implored her to end it and come clean to me. I also asked her why she was begging. Why she didn't just leave to be with Dave. I asked her if she was only doing this because she felt like it was the right thing to do, and not because she actually wanted to be with me. She answered by saying that she was doing it because she loves me, and because she knows she made some horrible choices. We talked for a long time, a lot of crying on her end, but not for me.
OP then asked her if there was anything else she wanted to tell him, if there was anything else she was keeping a secret.
She started sobbing again and asked me not to get angry. I got really nervous when she said that. She started crying for a bit before I urged her to just say it because she was making me uneasy. Then it came out. She said she found out she was pregnant not long after I had left, and that she terminated it because she wasn't sure who the father was. She said she thought if it turned out to be Dave's, there would be no room for reconciliation. I was in shock, and she started begging even more not to let this be the end of our relationship. I asked her how far along she was when she found out, and she said a few weeks. Then it hit me. Wait, you said in an email that it only got physical with Dave about a week before I found out. Was that a lie? She nodded. She ducking nodded. She explained that she only said that because she didn't want to hurt me with the details and was trying to minimize it. She confessed that it was physical for less than a month. She tried to console me, but I pushed her away. I asked her to leave and never come back. I told her I had found a job in another state and would be moving as soon as the divorce was underway. When she heard this, it was more of the same crying and pleading like before. I told her to leave or I would call the police. She reluctantly left.
OP was somewhat sure of the divorce before, but after she and him spoke, he was more sure of his decision than ever before.
However, a few days ago, I received a phone call from my mom that Sue was in the hospital. Apparently, she was hospitalized for an overdose. I visited Sue in the hospital, and she seemed to be okay, but she was checked into a psych ward. That's where things are at now. I still have no idea why she would do this. I haven't been thinking of the divorce, given what's going on right now. How do I even proceed?
Now, here is the final update.
Sue was in a pretty bad mental state, and fortunately, she got better. I felt really bad for her, but I knew I couldn't stay. Had I stayed, I'd only be doing myself and her more harm than good. We agreed to divorce, but she wanted us to remain in contact even if it was just minimal. The divorce process was pretty smooth, and it was finalized about a month ago. I moved to the West Coast to start anew, and things were finally starting to look good for me. But then I got a phone call about Sue again from her sister, and, long story short, Sue suffered from a stroke. She is almost completely immobile on the left side of her body and can barely speak. I can't even put into words how devastating that was to hear, let alone how crushed I felt when I went to visit her.
She looked nothing like the person OP knew, and she cried when she saw him.
One of the worst parts about all this is, I can't help but feel like it's my fault this happened to her. People tell me it isn't, but I feel like it is. Even though her closest family says it's not my fault, I can sense some hostility from them whenever I speak to them. Her aunt came and shouted at me, and the others just asked me to leave it alone and get on with my life. As much as I wish I could just move on, it still hurts knowing how all this turned out. I haven't spoken to Sue since she got the stroke, and her family won't let me see her because, apparently, I cause her stress. I don't even know the full details because I don't have the right to know now. I just can't seem to catch a break.
End of the story. Well, OP, after a betrayal, the feelings are not easy to turn off even after years. To have known and loved her for so long, even after the awful thing they did, you seem to remember the good times and the life you had prior to the affair. You are human, and deep down, most people would still have some compassion for even those that have wronged them. Who knows what life has in store for you? Only time will tell. You absolutely need to see a therapist because it is not your fault at all. Her choice to cheat ruined your marriage, your life, and now her own. You can't be doing anything about your marriage or her, but you sure can fix your life and move on. And where is Dave? Nice that he can just ruin your life and leave. I wish you all the best, OP. Thank you all for listening. Please like, comment and share the video if you enjoyed it. Also, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so you will be notified when we upload the next video. Take care.